Welcome to CineMyles, the show for cinephiles. I'm your host, Miles Hughes. I'm joined tonight by Miss Kristin Alexander.
Hello.
And we just saw Life, which is pretty much Alien. Hey, Kristin, have you seen Alien?
I have seen Alien.
I've seen Alien too, the people who made this movie.
I think that they're big fans of it.
I think they appreciate it, and as they should. I mean, it's one of the best horror films ever made. It's one of the best sci-fi films ever made. One of the best movie monsters of all time. Why wouldn't you want to emulate that?
Absolutely.
And this film, to its credit, has a few interesting tricks up its sleeve. The creature in question is it starts off kind of looking like a gray, veiny fruit by the foot. But then it sort of evolves and sort of grows into this squiddish, you said starfish.
It looks sort of like a mutant starfish.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
I like the way it slinks around the place, kind of like the octopus from Finding Dory.
Yes, exactly. It's like, if Disney were to create a horror film, I feel like it would emulate in that kind of creature.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that it had like a weird like cabbage face near the end.
It did have a weird sort of cabbage face. What is that?
The film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson, and a solid 15 minutes worth of Ryan Reynolds.
It was a very solid 15 minutes.
It was very good.
He did his best.
I don't think he had dialogue for the film. I think every time his character opened his mouth, the script just said, let Ryan Reynolds ad-lib.
Yep, just let Ryan Reynolds be Deadpool.
Exactly.
In space. It's Deadpool in space. Just let Ryan Reynolds just be in space in a suit and then die with dignity.
Yeah.
He did die with dignity.
Which is more than can be said of some characters.
I know, which was quite brutal, that death. But I'm a wuss. I don't like lots of gore.
Yeah, you're not a big horror movie person, so it's kind of fascinating that you even wanted to go to this one.
I am intrigued by the chemical reactions that human beings have when they watch suspense and horror. Even just when we were in the theater and just seeing how we were all radiating off of one another. Like you did this laugh. That was unlike anything I've ever heard. You do.
When was that at?
I have no idea. I think someone got killed and you thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. That sounds like me.
I was like, that's weird, but then everyone else kind of chuckled in at the same time.
Yeah. It's the same principle, I think, as like going on a roller coaster or going bungee jumping, skydiving, like that sort of adrenaline rush, and it's a very convenient adrenaline rush because you just sit down and let it happen to you.
Exactly.
I do think Life has a lot of really effective moments, very concentrated moments of really strong tension, but then it'll also have longer, sort of slower paced periods of what could have been character building, but was more like, well, let's look at the diagnostics of the ship.
There was so much time spent on, looking at, all these fancy lights and them doing doodads. I would have enjoyed if they had spent more time building the relationships with the characters, because the only two characters we felt any sort of genuine empathy or sympathy towards was Jake Gyllenhaal and Rebecca Ferguson. I don't think they had a romantic relationship, but there was definitely
there was some sort of connection,
a magnetism, a chemistry there.
I also feel like I got to know the least about them. Hiroyuki Sanada, who's the Japanese guy who just became a father, and he's got that sort of element of he wants to get back home to see his newborn daughter. The British guy, the doctor.
Paraplegic.
Yeah, which is fascinating, because like in space that doesn't matter, and he's able to sort of float around and do his whole thing, and I don't know, there was some interesting character notes that I wish had been further developed, because then once they start dying off, you sort of have that effect of, this would probably have a greater impact if I cared more about the character before this point.
Absolutely, and that's what's so great about Alien.
Yeah.
Because you have that time to really fall in love with them, and then next thing you know, it's just right through the stomach.
Well, and Alien is really successful in the sense that it builds that camaraderie into the beat-to-beat plot stuff and the exposition. It doesn't have to do like one or the other. They were able to have the sort of character dynamics along with the ship's readings are such and such percent. And this film takes turns. It'll do one or it'll do the other, but you won't usually find both in the same scene. It's written by Rhett Reese and Paul Warnick, I think are their names. They wrote Deadpool.
Oh,
and they also wrote Zombieland. So they've got a very distinct kind of smart alecky sort of take on conventional genre stuff. And I didn't feel their voice as much in this film. It felt like very standard sci-fi stuff for a lot of the time.
When I look at Deadpool and Zombieland, like, I can clearly see the comparison. Obviously the same writers, but I didn't feel that way watching this. And not that it was a negative, but it seems, let's just write a sci-fi film.
Well, exactly. It felt like a job for hire rather than something they felt particularly passionate about. I mean, we make the Alien jokes, but there's also a lot of influence I can see from recent sci-fi films like Sunshine Sunshine or Gravity. One of, I think, the most effective parts of the film is actually the very beginning, which is like this really nice extended tracking shot where you're sort of moving all throughout the space station and you get to sort of get a feel for all the locations, but you also get introduced to all the characters and sort of see what their jobs are and where they're sort of stationed throughout the crew. And it's a nice way to sort of get everything set up. Like, you know everything you need to know, at least to get started within those first 5-10 minutes.
Oh, it was gorgeous. I mean, the acting was, I thought, wonderful. Even though there wasn't a lot given, I think they did the best that they could. They had this nice dinner scene where he showed a picture or a video of his son or daughter being born, and it just kind of ended.
Possibly the most underwhelming title of all time.
I know.
Life sounds like, you know, a nature documentary or something like that.
They probably were just, hey, can you write us a sci-fi film?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll write you a sci-fi film. What can we call it? Alien. Oh, it's already taken. Life. We'll do Life.
Life.
We'll do
Perfect.
Life. Yeah.
After my favorite cereal.
That's so lame.
Would you recommend this film?
I would. I mean, I certainly had a great deal of anxiety watching it. I'm pretty sure there were a few times I saw Miles look over at me because I was just doing lots of this. I think the acting was very well done. I think cinematography, I think the score was wonderful.
Very
tense.
tense.
It was very, very tense. Do we do grading on this show?
Whatever you like.
I give it a B-.
B-?
B-.
That's solid. I would recommend it. I wouldn't say you need to see it in theaters. You can definitely check it out on Redbox or Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely solid. It's well made. It suffers from being overly comparable to films that are much better. I mean, we talked about Alien, Gravity, and Sunshine. Those are all three very, very similar sci-fi films that are infinitely better. And if you haven't seen any of them, I recommend all of those over it. But if you have seen all of those and you're looking for something kind of similar, it hits all the right notes, but doesn't necessarily engage beyond its standard subroutine. We're doing letter grades. I think B- is completely accurate. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things. Thank you so much for joining me, Kristin.
Thank you for having me, Miles.
And we will catch you all on the flip side. Have a good night.
Good night.